so we are recording or streaming. Okay, so that's good. So I went to SF Hacks over the weekend. Has anyone here gone to a hackathon before? No, no one. Okay, so that's okay. Because that was the first time I went to a hackathon. Even though they have been around for some time already, I've never been to one. There are local hackathons too. So if you look at this and go like, "Wow, this is kind of cool," it's something that I want to look into. There are Sacramento hackathons organized by, I think, the Hacker Lab. So there are local ones as well. So this is the one that I went to yesterday. It's called SF Hacks. So if you look up their website, so it was from March 2nd to March 3rd. Basically, it went from noon March 2nd to noon March 3rd. And they were expecting people to work 24 hours around the clock. Okay, it was organized by Major League Hacking. MLH. Was the organization that was doing this. And if you look through this, they have like, you can go to this website and kind of watch the video for yourself. So I'm not gonna play that. They have so they kind of explain what is a hackathon. So a hackathon is where you turn your crazy ideas into real stuff. When they talk about real stuff, it goes from hardware stuff to software stuff. Okay, and in fact, the majority of the projects were software stuff and not hardware stuff. So hundreds, and literally hundreds. They have this warehouse, and we counted there were around, I would say, 55 to 60 tables, and each table is actually two of those folding tables joined together. Okay, so one quote unquote. No, no, no. One is actually just a normal table. I take it back. So each table is for about one team, and the team has usually 4 people. And since they have like 50 or 60 of those tables, so you just multiply the number. There were like 200-300 people easily in the event. Major League Hacking is just an organization to organize student hacking. So there are, I guess, there are hacking events where you don't have to be a student or in the academia to participate. It's free. Okay, so admission is free. So if you look up here, admission is free. They got Wi-Fi, they got food, mostly just Costco cheap stuff, but it will keep you alive, for a day. Okay, unless you're allergic to cheese or you're if you're lactose intolerant, you're going to be you will die too. If you are gluten intolerant, you might get very, very sick. But to most people, pizza, okay, muffins, and then more pizza, and then more muffins, right? Huh? Yeah, but when that's your only food for breakfast. And they also have, if you go solo, you can go there and join up with other people, who want to be in a team, but they do not have a team. We are kind of fortunate because my students went in 2 teams, pre-formed, so they didn't have to join up with other people. But we also got like 2 students from AR who went independently, so they were just kind of, they were hunting for other members, to form a team. So it's kind of cool, kind of interesting. I took some pictures too on my phone. Oh, okay, we can do that. So what I do want to talk about is at the end of the day, they got these awards, right? They give people. Some people got cash, some people got like actual products and whatnot. So one category is for the best mobile app, okay, of the event. So mobile app is definitely on the radar of these events. There was one award only to UI UX design. So if you do not code, but you can design really nice and functional and usable user interface, they got one reward, okay, just for UI UX. So that's kind of interesting. But the majority of the products that students worked on were not even UI UX or things that have a front end. They are all basically projects that have to talk to the back end of stuff using API. Okay, I'll show you guys what I mean by API. It's kind of interesting. It's very, very interesting. Um, application program interface, which is a term that's kind of loosely used to describe several things, but these days, API definitely has a slightly more definite meaning to it, which usually refers to a web-based programming interface. So let me show you the gallery first. I know this has nothing to do with mobile programming, but it's very interesting, and I think since you're in this class, you might be interested in all this stuff too. And it's a screen copy. There we go. And I can, yep, turn it sideways. That helps a lot. Okay. So this is one of the teams from AR that went there. They're being judged. The guy to the left-hand side, this guy here, he's one of the judges. So at the end of the event, the project will be judged. Unfortunately, our project, these guys' project did not work because they were a little over ambitious and they shot a little too high and did not have enough time to finish it.
Did you guys, when you get there, do you get like some direction or are you just making whatever the hell you want? Or?
That is the funny part. It's completely open-ended.
So part of it is setting something that you can do in 24 hours.
Yes. Or it sounds kind of dubious, right? With some of the other teams, I kind of got this gnawing feeling that they actually went with something partially done already, or they got at least some foundational work already done already.
What I know about hackathons is usually something's already built or whatever, like all the bugs no one wants to fix.
That used to be the case, but it's not true anymore. These events are all completely open-ended. It's like do something with whatever, okay, and then they just name the prizes down the line. So you just shoot for the prizes.
Can I ask you what happens to what they make?
You still own it. You still own it. And there are more to these things.
What's the angle here?
The angle is interesting. These are actually, for the most part, hiring events. They are trying to hire people from these events. So they use your project to kind of evaluate how competent you are technically, and how much novel ideas can you come up with. So this is our team, and in the back here, that's one of our other teams too. So you can see, there's food everywhere, and people. It's just a completely open area with lots and lots of folding tables, and that's it. It's completely open. Um, so this is kind of the hall. This is almost the entire view, except for there were a few more tables to the left-hand side. Google was there. Macy's was there. Okay, so as it turns out, Macy's Tech, which is their technology division, is they have a home in San Francisco, and that's where they do most of their web and server back-end stuff. And apparently, they do a lot of stuff too. They are hiring a lot of people. So this is basically So if you
Macy, the clothing store?
yeah, the department store. So unlike some of the other retail stores, that just got pushed out completely by Amazon, Macy's is actually partnering with Amazon and with their own technology to help people shop for clothing and stuff like that. So they have a lot of their own developments in San Francisco, and they're definitely hiring, which is a good sign. So you can see, just lots and lots of people, in the event. And this is like they're all actively doing stuff. Oh, where is it? Excuse me. Yeah. Come on. Gallery. There we go. Yeah. So this is our team. The other team kind of working. So basically, this is what you see everywhere in the event. You just have like groups of 4 students with their laptops. Some people bring their desktop monitor. So that because you have to share coding with your partners, with your team. So with a larger monitor, you guys can talk and discuss stuff a little bit better. So that's why a lot of teams actually bring along those 19, 20-inch monitors to facilitate teamwork. Uh,
I can handle all the vendor drinks next to my computer.
that's that's what you have to do. I mean, there's no other way. The table is pretty small, to house like 4 people, 4 laptops, one external monitor, and just food and external mice and all kinds of stuff. So these are many of these are our students, and many of these are actually working in the design hub as well. So they're somewhat used to the environment, where they have to work in. This is actually a video that I shot of the event. So that kind of gives you a more 360 view of, how it went down, as they say, right? Yeah, so you can kind of see, it's really busy. Things were happening everywhere. About half the people went home, because they got a home in San Francisco, and the other half just kind of slept in a quiet room, somewhere else in the building. They got one small room where people just kind of put down their, like their mats and then sleeping bag and just kind of camp out. Let's see, back to here. So just more pictures of those. Google was there, and I don't do selfies very well, so you can see I'm always cutting off some parts of my own face, or completely not having any background. And I was taking a picture of Pokemon. I took this picture because I want to show my wife, who also plays Pokemon Go with me, how much of a dead zone that place was. It's like there's nothing there. There's not a gym, no Pokemon whatsoever. And then if you walk, like I would call that about 10 minutes or so, then there's like everything, right? You just you're in Pokemon heaven. But where I was, there's nothing, zilch, totally dead zone, man. Yeah, yeah. So okay, so the other thing that is interesting about these is I mentioned that a little bit already, was that it's a hiring event. When you apply and register for a hackathon, and I suspect it's the same with all the hackathons now, they would strongly encourage you to include your resume. Okay, so it's not really just about, okay, let's come play and we'll give you guys like prizes and whatnot. They want to hire people. Okay, and there's 1 or 2 or 3 check boxes where they specifically said, okay, by checking these boxes, you are allowing our sponsors to look at your resume and look into your project. They don't want to own your project. They want you to work for them. Your project is nothing compared to what they actually want. They want to hire people to demonstrate the capability of independent thinking, novel ideas, and the grit to be able to like dig through the whole thing and actually get the job done. And team playing and all kinds of stuff like that. Yeah. So it was very interesting. So that kind of brings us back to what we do in this class, which is kind of mobile programming, but using a fairly easy to use programming environment, because the full environment is actually quite a bit more difficult to use. Oh, the other thing I was trying to explain was what is an API, right? You heard me talk about APIs a lot. So what exactly is an API? Okay, so this is Twilio. Okay, Twilio. Okay, I keep mispronouncing it. It's Twilio. Does anyone know what is Twilio? Okay, right off the bat. Nope. Okay. So Twilio is one of those companies. It's kind of like a back end company. They don't have a front end of directly interacting with people. So I would call Amazon, Macy's, Wells Fargo, Google. Those are all quote unquote front end companies, or at least companies with a front end where you directly interact with those organizations. Twilio is one of those kind of back end companies where they provide a back end engine for SMS texting, voice, and other things you can do with a normal phone. Okay, so what they do is they have the resources and they run servers. So you can basically register with Twilio and you can sign up like a guest account for free, and they let you play with their stuff for a little bit, and then before they start to charge you money. So once you sign up, you can request cell phone numbers. Okay, so you just say, okay, I request 2, 3, or 5, cell phone numbers, and you can even specify, the area code that you prefer. Okay, so you can say, oh, I prefer 916 because I'm in Sacramento, and most of the people I want to interact with they're also in Sacramento, or 530 if you're in YOLO and stuff like that. So you got these numbers, and those numbers they are kind of like just a normal cell phone number. Okay, so you can text to those numbers, you can call those numbers, you can leave phone messages and whatnot, except the back end of those numbers are programmatic. In other words, the back end of all of that stuff goes to Twilio. So now, when you call or when you text one of those numbers, Twilio is actually getting that, and they can now send an HTTP request to whatever server that you want it to connect to. So now you can process that text message that was sent by a normal person to a normal text number, but you can reply and interact with the user using SMS, using your own code, using your own program. Yep.
Is this what all these people are using? Because when I'm at home, I
Mm-hmm.
get these people calling my phone or my home phone,
Uh-huh.
and then a little silence, and then suddenly someone appears on the
That I
line.
do not know.
They use it a lot for marketing, right?
Yes, that's what it's for. It's to try to con you to.
But not only marketing, you can use it for technical support.
Okay.
You can use it for mentoring. Okay, in fact, Twilio is one of the companies who offered remote mentoring for students who were participating in that event. So if you run into a problem like how do I do this in JavaScript, you can actually use the Twilio interface to interact with somebody on the other end. So this kind of gives you the programmatic side of SMS and even voice. Okay, you can do voice, you can do SMS, you can do MMS, and so on and so forth. So okay, getting back to what is an API, right? So an API, if I let me see if I can show the code on this side. Okay, okay, I cannot seem to change the size, but this part here, the darker side, that's kind of the API in JavaScript. So these lines of code, okay, so this is what you would write on your server to create a message to send to a real actual phone out there. Okay, so it allows you to write the code to interact using SMS text with somebody just using SMS. Okay, so instead of so let's say you're offering a particular service. Okay, um, I'm just trying to think of one. Okay. Okay, let's say you're playing Pokemon Go on ARC campus. Okay, you're the red team, and you just want to have a little interaction with all of the other red team people because you want to gang up and take over a blue gym, right? So you can now interact with a cell phone number with an SMS text number and just text to it. It's like, okay, I'm at whatever location, and this gym is ready to be taken. I need 5 more people to come here to help me take this gym. Okay, or I need specific Pokemons to take down this gym. Okay, I need grass type. I need normal and fighting types. Okay, so whoever has these really strong Pokemon, come and help me take down this gym. So you will send to this engine. This engine can now text the individual people who have registered as a red gym player, and and at the time they can even interact with a Google Calendar backend. So you can actually figure out whether those people are in class during that time or not. So if they're actually in class, they're filtered out. So you won't be contacting people who are in class. So you only be contacting people who are, according to the GPS, is on campus not in class. They're red gym players, and depending on Pokemon Go, if Pokemon Go has a backend as well, you can now check the inventory of what kind of Pokemon they have, the health of all of their Pokemons, so you can select only the ones who can actually potentially help you, and give them a message and go like, I want you guys to be here and help me take down this gym. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, I understand that is a totally useless, kind of app, okay? But if you have like advertisements, associated with it, you can still make a few quick bucks, with that sort of thing. So this is what I mean by when I said a backend. It's basically, on a server, sometimes on the client side too, but typically it's on the server. You just write some code in. Oh, by the way, I lied. This is not JavaScript, because JavaScript does not require a dollar sign. So this looks like maybe PHP. Yeah, it looks like PHP code to me.
Select PHP at the top.
Yeah, so you can select other languages as for examples. So if you want Node.js, you can use Node.js, C Sharp, and by the way, Node.js is kind of becoming one of the most used scripting language out there for back-end, server side, programming. So if you want to be, if you want a job, like doing this type of thing, JavaScript would be a really good programming language to learn.
What is Ruby and CURL?
So Ruby is one of the programming languages. It was really, really popular, but these days I think it's not gaining ground. If you look at the market share, I think the ones that is gaining ground really fast is Node. Python is probably holding its own. Okay, it's not losing ground, but it's not really expanding rapidly anymore. Curl, CURL is curl. It's not so much a programming language. It's basically a command line utility program in Linux that allows you to interact with a website on a command line. So basically, that's what you need to do this. So if I click on curl, CURL, this is a command line that you can write, in Linux and Mac OS X easily. I suspect you can do it in Windows as well if you have the command line interface. So you basically just write this chunk of code to send a message. Okay, so you have to specify where it's from, what is the body, what is the text of the body of the SMS, what is the number that you're sending it to, and then you also need an authentication token. Because otherwise, everybody can use this service without actually paying. So what you're paying for, okay, is the authentication token that basically identifies, one, who you are, and two, the fact that you have paid for whatever service, and they can now start to charge your account as you send these messages. I think each one is like a cent or so, okay, so they make money by people sending and receiving messages through their engine. It's about a cent, a penny or so, for each message when you're doing low volume. If you do high volume, I'm pretty sure they got discount for that as well. So that's what curl is. Do we have any questions? No questions? Okay. So there were other projects, other people who work on different projects. The one that one of the ARC teams was working on was an anonymous group chat through SMS, type of application. So let's say, as a class, okay, as a class here, we want to do a group text, for a field trip, okay. But you guys don't want me to have your actual cell phone number because I might spam you, right? And say, hey, you want to take cisp362? It's offered this semester. Okay, so you don't want me to spam you, but you still want to be able to kind of share the text group on that day during the field trip. So we might go to the Android headquarters, okay, as a field trip. So my students worked on an engine using the Twilio backend so that we can generate an ID, okay, associated with a particular text number. So everybody can quote unquote join that quote unquote chat, so you can pick a nickname, okay? You can pick a nickname that quote unquote identifies you. So somebody can say I'm Lion King, okay? So as long as I know who Lion King is, okay, I can tell who sent that message. It's like, okay, Lion King says I'm lost in San Francisco, rescue me, okay. Then go like, okay, where you are, and then you can say, okay, I'm at the intersection of Folsom and blah blah blah, okay, whatever, okay. But your text number would never be disclosed to me because everything is going through Twilio, and then it just get broadcasted. The body of the message got broadcasted without your actual phone number. So my students was working on that. So it's kind of like an interesting application. It has no front end. There's no user interface to speak of other than, how do you specify, okay, we want to create a new chat room, okay, and it returns back a little number to identify that particular chat room and how other people can join that chat room. You just say /join and then the number, and there you go, okay, you're now in that chat room, okay. So that's one of the products. Unfortunately, my team couldn't get it done because they kind of overshot a little bit. They planned for too many features, and they didn't know Google Cloud Platform well enough to get it done effectively. So that's the other thing that is kind of interesting, is a Google Cloud Platform. So I know this is mobile programming, and what I'm talking about here is not entirely mobile programming. So Google Cloud Platform. So Google Cloud Platform allows people to have a web presence, have some kind of a cloud, I shouldn't say web, I should have said cloud presence without paying for a lot of money. Okay? Give you an example. Let's say we are trying to get that app running, or the Pokemon Gym app running. Okay, so you need some kind of a cloud presence or web presence. Now, whether it has a front end for people to directly interact with doesn't really matter. Okay, it just needs to be sitting out there for certain communication to happen. So what Google has done with their cloud platform is, traditionally what you need to do is you need to learn how to work with Linux. Okay, because you'll be starting up a Linux virtual machine, somewhere using AWS or Google or some other places. You have to learn how to administer Linux. Okay, how do you install packages? How do you update packages? How do you make sure people cannot hack into your computer easily? How do you make sure that all the packages can work with each other? They do not have conflicts. Blah 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 blah. Okay, which is a lot of work. Okay. That's why they have system administrators, whose only job is to keep the servers up and running and healthy, and check for potential problems. Do we have enough space? Oh, we are running out of space. Okay, let's go buy more RAID hard drives. Oh, that hard drive just broke. Okay, let's go replace that. So with Google Cloud Platform, that's all handled by Google. Okay, so what you do is you focus on just your code. Okay, so you just say, okay, I need Node. Okay, I'm going to write this app in Node.js. Okay, so you install Node.js and all the packages that you need. Okay, and then you start coding. When it's time to deploy your app, you just run a single line command on the Google Cloud console, and then your app gets exposed. Okay, gets deployed, so it now becomes available to people to use. Okay, so in the more traditional sense, if you manage your own virtual server, so let's say you're cheap and at first you only got like 10 people using your server, okay? So you go for the cheapest possible virtual server and go like, okay, I only need 2 virtual processor, maybe 100 gigabytes of storage space, and that's enough, okay? And then your business starts to grow. You got 100 people to use it now. So now you have to go to the next tier, right? Okay, I have to shut down the lesser virtual machine, migrate all my data, migrate everything to a bigger server, start it up, blah blah blah. Okay, and now it grows to 1,000 people, 1,000,000 people. So every single step along the way, you have to do all kinds of management to scale your application up. Okay, it's all done by Google. Okay. If your front end, in this case, is getting 10 people, you get 1 instance, okay? If your server load gets up to a certain threshold, they automatically spin off additional front end servers to handle the load coming in from the web, okay? And they can do that as long as you pay for that, as long as you have a credit card to pay for all of that service, They can spin up 100, 1,000 front end servers if that is needed, and it's all done automatically. Now, all of those 1,000 front-end servers, they have to connect to the same back-end database or whatever, and that's also managed by Google. So you can use something that is completely scalable. You can use something that is not so scalable, but it's your choice, okay? But you don't have to manage your own database and go like, darn it, it runs out of space again, and everything is just crashing. Nope, you got that taken care of already. When you sign up for Google Cloud Platform. So the bottom line is, I think AWS, Amazon Web Service, has similar, products, but the idea is you don't need to run the computer. You don't run the operating system. You don't run the database. You don't have to install packages and whatnot. You just focus on coding. They take care of the security part as long as it is, infrastructure related. Okay, if you have security hosts in your app, that is your fault. Okay, they cannot fix that. Okay. But if it is related to let's say the SSL certificates and stuff like that, that's all taken care of by these platforms. So you can focus on just coding, which makes it possible for developers to start up new startup companies really quickly, because you don't need the administrator anymore. You can basically bypass a few steps in order to set up your just infrastructure. In the good old days, when people need physical servers to get this kind of stuff done, oh man, it's really hard. I mean, you start up in the office with your own tiny little server, and then and that at some point it grows to a bigger server, and now you have to move your machines physically into a data center, okay? And then, but it's still you're moving all the physical stuff, and if a hard drive goes out, you have to get there, or somebody has to go there to replace the hard drive and whatnot. All of that stuff is gone now. It's all done virtually. You just focus on coding. So that's the kind of the other side of what I observed in the event, is most of the teams were using Google Cloud, Amazon Cloud, or I think there's another one called DigitalOcean, I think. DigitalOcean. Yeah, so DigitalOcean is another one. They basically, they have they got droplets instead of App Engine. Okay, so they have different ways to call that product, but the idea is the same. Okay, they manage everything other than the coding. You deal with the coding. They make sure everything scales. They run smoothly, and you only pay for what you use. So in the past, you have to have the hardware, right? So now you buy your $30,000, HP server, because you're anticipating that in a year you might grow to 1,000 customers, okay? Or whatever customer number that requires that 30,000 server, which by the way is not that expensive in the world of servers, okay? What if your business grew slowly? Okay, at the end of the year, you only got 100 customers, which means you could have gotten away with only a $1,500 server instead of a $30,000 server. Then you just wasted a lot of money, because that thing, okay, that $30,000 server is continuing to depreciate. Or if you are making payments, you have to continuously pay payment, right? But if you go for any one of these services, it's like, well, if you only got 100 customers, based on the bandwidth, how much RAM, how much processing power, how much database storage is needed, you might only need to pay $5 a month. Okay, and then 1 month later, something hits, and then you suddenly got 1,000 customers. Your revenue shot up. Okay, now your monthly fee is like $50 a month. Okay, or something like that. But it's like, whatever you use is whatever you get charged for. So that's kind of the interesting, shift of how these things are done, compared to the past. You got a question? Yes.
I do.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked about that there's 3 different clouds
Uh-huh.
to load a program in.
Yep.
Google Cloud, Amazon Cloud, and DigitalOcean Cloud. So what happens when your program gets hacked? Do they have a backup, or are you responsible for?
So what usually happens, it depends on what kind of backup you're talking about. So this brings me to yet another product that was used heavily in these projects. It's GitHub. So GitHub is, oh, did I? Oh, I went to the GitHub page for the screen copy software. So I need to go back to all the way to backup to GitHub. So GitHub is a place where you can store and manage in terms of version control and sharing and stuff like that for the source code of your program. Okay, so as far as the intellectual property of your software is concerned, you can quote unquote backup into GitHub. GitHub is not a backup facility. Okay, it is a version control utility. But hey, you got all your source code up here. It's quote unquote a backup for your intellectual property. If you have customer data that you're storing on your server, in your database, that is your responsibility to back it up. Okay, so Google does not, actually do any type of backup. You are responsible to do backup. Now, Google does provide, and I'm pretty sure all of the other competitors also provide a mechanism to do it. They call those slow storage, okay, or glacial storage. So basically, the idea is you generate a backup file into the cold storage, into the slow storage. So the idea of a slow storage is per terabyte wise, it is inexpensive, but the I/O speed is like not really that great. So it's great for backup purposes, but you don't want to run it, online, to serve your app because it's too slow to do that. So you still have to kind of manage to do all kinds of backup like that, for your customer data, for everything that is not your intellectual property. But this is something that was worth bringing up as well, because this is how teams can share code with each other. So let's just say that we got a really complex project, and this entire class, okay, is one single team, okay. So now, one person has to work on one particular portion of the project, another person has to work on another portion of the project. But at some point, they're going to interact, right? All of these different parts will interface and interact. So now, with Git or a similar product, you can now manage and say when you want your code to be seen by others in your team, and when you want to download the latest revision from your teammates, okay? So let's just say that you're working on something and somebody is working on something else, and the new API is not going to be the same as the one that you're working with, then you can defer the update of your stuff from the others, okay, until you're ready. Then you go like, okay, now I want to pull all the updates from everybody else to integrate into my code base, but my code is still not working. I'm not going to push it to the rest of the team yet, okay? So you can do management like that. You can also, it's also good for debugging, okay? So let's say you got a product already released, okay, and somebody reported a bug, okay? How do you fix that bug? Well, I mean, that's kind of like, okay, we know how to fix bugs. But how do you manage the fixing of that bug? Because you don't want to use the main branch of revision control to test the fix to the bug, okay? Because that's going to impact everybody. So what you do is you make a fork, okay? You branch off the main, revision tree to one, revision tree that is only for you for fixing that bug, okay? So now you can continue to use, Git to share the code with other people. People can collaborate with you. You can make changes, and it will basically keep track of the changes until such time you go like, okay, I got this change in. We got everything tested. It's all good, ready to be released. Then you can merge that branch for fixing the bug back into the main branch. Okay, and so your bug is going to be incorporated into the next revision to be released. But that's but with the protection of during the process of debugging the bug, you're not affecting everybody else. Okay, you have basically a little sandbox of source code created for yourself just for fixing that bug.
So if you were to come up with a new release to fix bugs,
Uh-huh.
how, who actually puts it into the platform so that everyone gets it?
So the project has several roles. Okay, so you can have developer roles, you can have bystander roles and whatnot. So many people can check out the code, but only certain people can check code back in, and only certain people can like kill a branch if that needs to be done.
Okay.
So you can have a team where you can have a project manager who has all the rights to the entire thing. Every developer can check in, but only the project manager can delete and nuke an entire branch.
So it's one particular person that's in control of the whole umbrella.
Right. So you can control who can do what basically in a project like that.
Cool.
So these are the things that we'll never teach you at school. But this is the kind of stuff that you need to actually get jobs. Okay. So at a hackathon event, like the one that I just went to, if you talk to the quote unquote sponsors, basically those are the people who pay for all the Costco food, and they have their banners and tables and whatnot at the event. If your project is successful, or even if it's not successful, but you can tell everybody like, oh, this is how we use GitHub, this is the source code. We're using Google Cloud Platform, we are using the Twilio backend, the API, blah 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 blah. That's already a huge plus, okay, compared to a straight A student from the same school. They don't really care about the straight A, GPA part, okay. But I've been, on Dean's list, ever since I got into this school. Okay, so tell me something about GitHub. I have no idea what it is. Tell me something about Google Cloud Platform. Okay, how do you host, an app in the cloud? Don't know. I just run my program on my PC. Do you have any experience working with a backend of anything? Right? Lyft has a backend. Google Document has their backend. Google Calendar has a backend. Basically, they are ways for automatic things to happen with things that you and I use. Google Calendar, for instance. Okay, so if you have a backend, an application, it's just like the Pokemon Go application. Okay, if people who register can share their calendar, now the backend, the API would allow this thing to check. Okay, when is a good time to take over that gym? Okay, we'll look for a free time, a time that is free for most people. They're not in class. They don't have anything scheduled. We will look into the GPS location, which is an Android thing, okay, or possibly a Google backend thing. Okay, I can see these people are on campus. They don't have a class right now, and they have these, and then the Pokemon backend, okay, allows another thing you can check, okay, with your app. Basically a cloud app, you can check what kind of Pokemons they have. Oh, these guys only have fire type Pokemon. We don't need these guys. I need grass type this time. Okay, so you can do all the filtering before you contact these people and go like, you guys, you're the A team. Okay, you're the best candidates to help me take down this gym. I know it's not a very like profitable kind of app, but it gives you the idea of what APIs are for. So let's say this Dean's List person at San Francisco State in an interview said, I have no idea what an API is, have never worked with these things. Okay, thank you very much, sir. Okay, it's great, okay, that you're academically very successful, you have demonstrated a lot of good stuff. Next person comes in. My GPA is only 3.0. Okay, I'm not on the Dean's List. But I have been to 5 of these hackathons, of which I won like certain prizes. Doesn't even have to be a lot in 3 of them. Okay, I've worked with GitHub to manage the source code with my teammates. I use this kind of API backend. My application interacts with all of these other backends. Okay, and then I also use Google Cloud Platform to host my app. And I can show you the source code. Okay, here's my source code, and these are the evidence that I won these prizes at these particular hackathons. Guess what? Hired on the spot. On the spot, it's like you're hired, because if this person gets interviewed by the next interviewer is going to grab him too, or her. Okay, because these are the kind of people that industry in San Francisco is looking for, not the straight A students who say, I studied really well, okay? Everything in the book I can do. If you tell me exactly what the problem is, I can solve that problem really fast. No, they want people with ideas. They want people who basically just go like, okay, this is our company, this is kind of what we do, this is our vision. make something that aligns with that using all of those other potential products out there. That's what they're looking for. That's where the big bucks are at this point. So I'm not sure whether that's helpful to you guys or not. I'm just kind of sharing something that I observed over the weekend. Um, is that cool?
That is very, very important because I worked in the field for so long, I have seen people terminated because they didn't know how to work together with groups.
Yeah, well, that's important, but the technical side is also very important because that has changed a lot. Now, I cannot change the curriculum of ARC, and start to say, okay, let's learn JavaScript instead of C and C++. I can't do that. Why? Because we have to articulate with the UCs and the CSUs, and they are not changing yet. So until they change, I cannot change. So the transfer degree still is kind of stuck, in the same way. This is the other thing that's interesting. I was once a San Francisco State student 32 years ago. So I kept telling those people, the organizers, it's like they asked so are you a participant? Because I don't look like the age of most of the participants. Go like, no, I'm just the faculty advisor of my student club, and since they need an advisor to be present to go on field trips like this, and that's why I'm here. And then I just tell them, but I was once here 32 years ago. And many of the organizers are not even 30 years old. Yep.
So what do they use for the graphics?
What graphics?
Pictures, animation. When you, like Pokemon.
For
What do
Pokemon?
they use to show the graphics, the pictures in the game?
Oh, that's a whole different thing. Yeah. So in a real game, you have what we call 3D modelers. You have character design people who basically just kind of do a two-dimensional sketch of what the characters would look like, front, back, top, and whatnot. So they're the concept people. They give you ideas. Okay, like this character should be big, tough, with armor, horns, blah 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 blah. Okay, and then you have 3D modelers who would take that conceptual idea and turn it into what we call a 3D model. And then you will have animators. Okay, so the 3D model just gives you the general, dimension. Like this is the arm, this is the leg. Okay, this is the torso, this is the head, and so on and so forth. But how does it move? Okay, how does the tail wiggle? How does the mouth open? Okay, what is the range of motion of the arms and whatnot? 3D model said, not my job. Okay, so you got an animator and what we call a rigger, who would do a rig, R-I-G, and basically what that does is it will associate the joints of the fingers, the arm, the shoulder, the torso, the legs, the hip, and so on and so forth. So they would identify these infrastructure things, which is kind of like the skeleton, right? But they will work with the skeleton and identify how things are connected. So they would give you a rig of the 3D thing. And then you got animators. Okay, so the animators will take the rig, and the 3D model, and start to think about, okay, so when this character is idling, the ears would twitch like this, and then the tail would just occasionally, whip like this, at this particular rate, and so on and so forth. So you got a whole team of people just to create one single, quote unquote, character in one of those games. It's very involved. Okay, there's a lot of work involved in all of this stuff here, involving a lot of different types of expertise. Now, you can have one person serving multiple roles. Okay, so your 3D modeler may also work on the rig. Okay, and then the animator is a whole different person, and then the person who comes up with the conceptual art is yet another person. So you can divide the task amongst like different people in different ways. But it's very involved. It's much more complicated than most people think it is.
And then the coder is involved with making it move?
So the movement part is still the animator's job, okay, to do the movement. The coders come in when you have to think about what happens when this character meets the other character, okay, or what triggers, okay, what triggers this trap to close or to open and to whatnot. So then you need coders, you need a storyboard person to kind of think about, okay, so if I look at the overview of the entire game, what is the objective, what is the storyline, okay, what is each character going to do, okay, what is the mission of the characters, okay. You can have characters that are played by people, you can have characters that are in the game that's the AI is operating. So how do they interact, what is the storyboard, okay. And then you have the game engine, okay, which basically supplies the backdrop of the whole thing, okay. So you have to you have to have people who work on like the buildings, work on the background, the mountains, the what does the sky look like, color scheme, artists, of all kinds have to participate. Yeah, to really make a video game is a lot of work. A lot of work. Yep. So what we do in this class is kind of like baby steps of programming in a way. Yep. So while my students were working on their stuff, okay, I was thinking about, well, I think I can make my own app, okay. Of course, I didn't end up making my own app because I have to. So I'm quote unquote their mentor, which is allowed. So I don't actually do their code for them at all. I do not debug their code. I just give them ideas, okay? So I have to do some research on the side and go like, okay, you guys can probably do this, or this may explain why your program is not working, that sort of stuff. But I was also working on my own thing. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, the whole time, even though those 4 people in the team, they were not only in the same room, they were actually on the same table. Guess how they communicated? Discord. Okay, so this is okay. So I think some of you are familiar with what is the Microsoft product that does this? They bought it from somebody else. Skype. That's it. Okay. So it's kind of like Skype, where you can text, you can video, image, and stuff like that. But this is kind of the coder slash gamer's choice of chat engines, okay? Because you can share screens with other people easily. So if your program is not working, or you just want to show what happens when the program runs, you can share a screen with another developer. It's like, okay, this is what happens when I click blah, 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 okay? So this is kind of what we were doing. These numbers were actually numbers from the cell phones that we were testing. So when somebody had a problem with regular expression, guess what? They just copy and paste it, put it onto Discord, so other people can now help debug the regular expression, because instead of spelling out or copying on a piece of paper or using a cell phone to take a picture, this is much faster. It's like bam, you just post it on the Discord. Another person can copy and paste it and go, okay, I will help you fix the regular expression. You just move on and do something else. It's interesting. It's very interesting how we developers start to do things now. And what I did with my team was I would look up documentations. So I would look up documentations of because somebody posted a authentication token by accident to GitHub, and it was public. So that was not a great idea. So we have to invalidate that particular authentication token, generate a new one, and so on. But the team was too busy coding, and to have them to kind of break into, okay, let's do a research and find out how to reset our token is not efficient, okay? And since I was kind of like not even doing the coding and stuff like that, so I did some of my research. And once I know which page they can go to change the authentication token, so instead of telling them, oh, go to this page or go to this page, I just posted a link on Discord. So even though the student who was actually doing it was right next to me, this was the fastest way to get the link to him. It's faster than email, okay? Because this entire thread was for the event, okay? Only things that are related to this event was on this thread. There's no other email, no distraction whatsoever. So Discord allows you to well, I'm pretty sure most chat engines can create rooms and stuff like that, so you can focus on one particular thing. But we were just using Discord because everybody else already had Discord accounts, and that's kind of an interesting about how a modern workplace function. Okay, you can be physically right next to another developer. You can be off by like halfway around the world. This is how they communicate. Take a screenshot, post it. Okay, you take a look at the screenshot, go like, yeah, I think I know what the problem is, and then you once you do some research and you find the link to the solution of the problem, bam, you paste the link, press the enter key, off you go. Yep, yep. So it's a very very good experience, for people who have not done that. Um, yes. So I was doing some additional research. You can see, well, you cannot because this is not even close to my actual screen. So the number of tabs that I had, was basically all the way maybe up to here, and that's the size of each tab. And I was doing research the whole time, on various topics and whatnot, and that's it. I mean, you probably need a person who's kind of just floating, not actively doing coding, but as an assistant to all the coders, and go like, okay, you need to look up something. You continue with your coding. I will look it up for you. Okay. But what I really want to show was something else. Okay. Oh, this was helpful too. It's called a Tab Outliner. It's a extension you can install into Chrome. Um, can you guys read the title of those tabs? No, right? I mean, you can kind of identify, oh, some of these are from Twilio and some of these are from Google and whatnot. But exactly what does it say? No idea, right? This allows you to display the tabs in a different orientation where you can actually still see, oh, this one is about regular expression from JavaScript, MDN, which is the Mozilla Development Network or something like that. So you can now double click on this one and then the browser will go to that particular page. Huh? Well, when you're coding and you got 24 hours in a competitive, type of, contest. Yeah, it's used in conjunction with those. Some of these are grayed out for that reason.
So how did you get your screen to do this?
It's a plugin. So you just go to Chrome and then you go to a search engine. You look for Tabs Outliner. I'll show you how to do it. So you just look for Chrome Tabs Outliner, and then the link is it's a Chrome extension. I got it installed already, so there's no install link here. But if you do not have it already installed, there will be a link here for you to install it.
And is that free to get it installed like that?
Some of the extensions are free, some are not. Some are adware. They would basically pop up some ads. Like occasionally. This one is donationware. So sometimes it will pop up a donation and go like, like, help me buy a beer or something like that. Yeah, but I find it to be a very useful extension, for code development, because in a hackathon you are dealing with things that you may be slightly familiar with, but a part of it is not something that you're totally familiar with. So you'll be looking up things left and right, and tab management becomes kind of important. Yep. Okay, but that's not what I want to share with you guys. I'm still looking for what I want to share with you guys. So this is about Google Cloud. I might have closed that already, so I can just reopen it. No big deal. So while I was doing all of this stuff here, I got some time of my own, and I was writing my own App Inventor app on the side. And do you guys remember why the first screen is kind of important? Because that's the only chance you can have a splash screen and play a video, deliver a message, to promote your product, and stuff like that. So I was working on my splash screen, and I couldn't even finish it because I didn't have time to do it. You guys go like, but you got 24 hours, right? Noon on Saturday to noon on Sunday. You cannot even finish one screen. Because I was helping my students also on the side and stuff like that. So this is the tool that I use to make a graphics image. Okay, so I want to share with you, how I did that, because some of you may want to do that too for this class. Okay, so this is Inkscape. Okay, let me resize it. It doesn't resize very well. I still haven't found out why that is the case. So first unmaximize, and then it's refusing to unmaximize. Okay, click that. It doesn't like that either. Okay. Okay, come on. Stop hogging my old screen. How about minimize? Okay. Okay. Oh, there we go. So I have to move it to resize it. There we go. If you know how to use Adobe Illustrator, it's a very similar product. Okay, unmaximize. There we go. So let's see. Now we can do this. Okay. Yeah, so the user interface has a bug of some kind and it just doesn't work very well. But it's a very good tool for freehand drawing, okay? Now, if you want to do some freehand drawing and use that bitmap for icons or for the splash screen and stuff like that, there are many ways to do it. You can do it on a piece of paper, okay? Scan it, okay? Clean up the image. That's one way to do it. You can use Photoshop or the GIMP to do it. But the problem with both of those ideas is you end up with a raster image, which means you got pixels, okay? Everything is expressed in pixels. Now, you might have a very high resolution scan, but eventually those are still pixels. This program is what we call a scalable vector graphics, SVG. So let me show you my design first, and then we'll talk about it. Okay. Okay. Once again, it doesn't. It's showing enough to make that point. Okay. So this is what we call a scalable vector graphics, where the circle, the purple circle, is not expressed in pixels. It is expressed by the radius, the color, and also the thickness of the line. So if I want to zoom in, further and further and further, it will remain to be smooth. Okay. If I want to, okay, let me show you. So with the bitmap, you cannot just infinitely zoom into something and expect the whole thing to be smooth. With this, you can. So I'm using the magnification glass here, and just look at a tiny little portion. See how sharp it still is? Because it is scalable vector graphics, okay? It knows exactly where the boundary is between the background and the line itself. So if I were to zoom in again, there's a limit of how far I can zoom in, like only this portion. See how you can go in and in and in and in, and it's still at the maximum resolution because it is actually drawn on the fly. It is not a bitmap, okay? So this allows you to do all kinds of stuff. You can make a tiny little logo, on your screen. You can make a button, okay, an actual physical button. You can also make a billboard, logo that you can just hang on a highway, okay, on your way to become a billionaire because of your idea, right? So it's a great way to create like symbols, icons, company logos, that sort of stuff. You will need a logo to publish your app, by the way. Okay, it is a requirement to publish an app, is to have a logo. Okay, so to have an icon. So you kind of you will run into the question of, how do I make this? Okay, this is one way to do it. Is this the best way? Is this the best program to do it? Kind of depends on what you're doing and what your proficiency is, but it's free. Okay, Inkscape is a free program. It's kind of like Adobe Illustrator or freehand. Okay, but it's free and it can do a lot of really cool stuff.
What's it called again?
It's called Inkscape. Inkscape. Yeah. So let me see if I can resize the screen to. Okay, there we go. Yeah, it needs to be moved in order to. Okay, so I can zoom it back out to the whole document. Okay, so this was my icon. The app that I was about to write is called Mind Defragger. Mind Defragger. Okay, you know how a hard drive can defragment, so our mind can fragment as well. Okay, over the day, you get bombarded with all kinds of stuff. Such as my class, you can see how fast I can go from one topic to another. So your mind is probably very fragmented by this point. Okay, so it's basically a tool that I want to make to help people establish like mindfulness so they can focus again, and stuff like that. So it's called a mind defragger, and I only managed to make a logo or an icon for my app. That's it. I couldn't get any further than that. But it was pretty easy. Okay, I personally like icons like this. It's basically one big circle, a straight line, two smaller straight lines, and then an ellipse. But I make use of the gradient feature, where the color just kind of gradually changes. Okay, but it was pretty easy to work with. Yeah. So are we good so far? Okay. All right. So if you want to make a logo, icon, or something like that, this is a great tool. Okay, what if your app is needs something like a leaf from a maple tree? Okay, you want to use that as your logo. Okay, I know that's the Canadian flag, but huh? But you have a picture of something, in high resolution, and you want to turn it into scalable graphics. Inkscape can do that as well. So they have a tool. Okay, I'm just trying. Let me get to that tool. It's either under Path or under Object. I think it's under Path, and it's Trace Bitmap. That's it. That's the tool. Okay, I'm not going to click it because this is not a bitmap, so it's not going to work here. So let's say you have a high resolution bitmap of something, and you want to turn it into scalable vector graphics, so that it's infinitely scalable. You can put that image into an Inkscape document, select that particular image, click Trace Bitmap, and it will basically use software to track the outline, the edges, and whatnot to turn your bitmap into scalable vector graphics. So now, once it turns into scalable vector graphics, now it's infinitely scalable. So there's a built-in tool to do that. If you say, okay, I got this picture of something I want to use as my logo, but it's not quite in this format. So instead of trying to do it by hand, which sometimes is very time-consuming, you can use a tool to do it. Then you can kind of nudge things around a little bit to make it look perfect. So it's a great little tool for this kind of purpose, and I want you guys to at least know about it. You can choose not to use it, right? I mean, you can just go like, okay, I still have my own tools to do something like this. Fine, not a problem.
So what is this tool called?
Zero. It's open source. It's basically free software. It comes with all the capability, but it doesn't come with a huge gallery that you can choose from. So you still have to come up with your own design, but it's just a tool to help you get your design realized. Okay. The other thing, okay, since we're here, okay, we can talk about that too, is there are occasions where you want to export your design into a PNG or GIF or JPG or whatever, okay, into raster image, okay. So this is how you do it, okay. You just go to File, Export to Image. Then it will allow you to select, okay, do you want to export just whatever is selected? Do you want to export just the drawing part? Because you can have a huge page where the drawing is only a small part of it, okay? Or do you want to export the entire page? Okay, so it does give you options of what you want to export. And then once you select that, it will give you like default settings. So in this particular case, it's not actually a circle, it is an ellipse, because you can see how the width is not exactly the same as the height, okay? That might be because I've just clicked on something, but regardless. But you can also control the image size. So if you want to send this to Costco and you want to turn it into a 20 by 30 poster, then you need to bump up that image size because at 20 by 30 inches, you need a higher resolution for things to look sharp and nice. Okay. On the other hand, if you want to send this image to a company that makes like buttons or like little stickers, you don't need a super high resolution. So you can go for a lower resolution. So you can control that. And then you can control the file name, okay, what is the file name, which folder do you want to send this image to, and when you're ready, click export, and it will create that PNG or whatever for you. Great little tool, because when you publish an Android app, they will ask you for the icon of your app as a bitmap. You cannot just turn in an SVG and say, okay, this is my, my icon. You have to actually give it an icon that is 64 by 64, one icon that's 32 by 32. You have to give it an icon at different resolutions. This is a quick way to generate all of those icons, like at various resolutions. So great little tool, I think it really has a lot of relevancy to what we are doing in this class. And it's free, it runs in Mac OS 10, Windows, Linux, basically any operating system. So that makes it very, very usable. All right, so I can now show you how far I got. I didn't get very far. So, I actually put it into the app itself. So we want to go to App Inventor. Because if I were to work on that project, I would be a team of one. And then the judges will first ask, why are you so old? When are you planning to get your bachelor's degree? Got mine about 30 years ago. Thank you. Actually, it is 2019, so I got mine actually 30 years ago. Yeah. Which means that's... It was a summer 30 years ago. So I can tell them which season it was. Okay. So this is as far as I could get, with my first screen. You can see it's the first screen because it says, screen 1. So how do we get an image into the app, right? Because, hey, we never talked about that. Well, last time we talked about something related to this, but not exactly. This is how we do it. Upload file. Okay? Now, what kind of file can you upload? Any kind, okay? You can have a text file. Remember JSON, JSON? So let's say, whatever you're doing, okay, let's say you have like D&D characters, okay? Two of you were trying to do D&D stuff. So let's say you have a D&D character. And to describe a character, it takes like, there's so many attributes, okay? So you start to use Notepad and create your own JSON file. Okay, you can do syntax check and whatnot pretty easily. There are online tools to double check and make sure your syntax is okay. Okay, so you end up creating, let's say, a 20 kilobyte file, text file, which is a lot of stuff, okay, as a text file, to describe a character, okay? And you go like, okay, now I need to turn this into blocks in App Inventor. There's no way I want to do that, okay, because it's very tedious and it's prone to errors. So what you do, you upload that text file using this little icon. So now the text file is now quote unquote packaged with your app, which basically means in your app, you can read that file, okay? And then you can read that file, turn it back into, use JSON decoding to turn it back into JSON, turn it back into a list format. Then you can locate things faster because you can just go like, you can have a little search bar and say, what do you want to look up? Armor, okay, or things that are related to armor. So you just let the person type in armor, and it will go down and up and down that list to look for an attribute called armor. And then they will list all of those things and go like, okay, the armor is this, armor enhancement, percentages, blah, 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 or, magic armor is this much, and so on and so forth. So that makes it easy for people to kind of interact with your user interface because they don't have to know which one to expand and look. I just know what word is included in the attribute and just go search like that. Excuse me, we're not quite done yet. I'll be done soon. Okay, so that's basically how far I got. And I also uploaded the PNG and the SVG file both. So this is an image, okay? So when you specify an image using the tool up here, this image tool or image component, you can then specify what picture do you want to be associated with that thing. And I just chose the PNG in this case. Now, this interface actually has several bugs, so if it doesn't work well with you, like the first time or something like that, just bring it to my attention, at the lab, and I'll try to help you to get it done, okay? But this is kind of like the first step to include images, media files, audio stuff, video stuff into your application. So your splash screen can include a video.
Is that media follow screen?
Hmm?
So you have to do that first screen.
It is per screen, unfortunately. Yep. So if you have an image you want to import into another page, you have to import it again to the other page. All right, we are running out of time before the third person pops their head in. I'm going to stop the lecture here. All right, so we didn't do a whole lot of stuff, actually related to mobile app programming, but I'm hoping the other stuff that I talked about is kind of useful. Mm-hmm. So we can now say stop.